Hello, my name is Larry Dube and I'm president of PSGi. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about a concept called Headless ERP and how it might be able to be applied to legacy systems. Here at PSGi, we support a number of accounts that are running those older legacy systems, and our job is to provide as much return on that investment as possible. Now, even though we're talking about legacy systems here, even if you're using a newer system, we're all feeling the same kinds of outside pressures within our businesses. That could be supply chain visibility, it could be changes in technology, it could be consumer demands or vendor demands, all those things that are changing fast and furious. We need to be able to deal with, yet the ERP systems that we're running can't necessarily deal with that pace of change. So the concept of Headless ERP provides us a model that might be able to be used to be able to deal with that pace of change, at the same time taking advantage of that functionality that we have in our ERP systems. And we'll talk a little bit more about that today. First, let's just a real high-level definition of what Headless ERP is. It is the disconnect of the processing power of your ERP system with external systems. So work in the ERP is driven through APIs or interfaces, and it's allowing the freedom of choice in dealing with outside influences like your website or e-commerce or mobile devices or CRM, as just a really simple example. Now we know that the outside world is much more complicated than that, and there's data coming from all sides of us. We need to be able to think about that as well. Industry 4.0 is just one example of that, where technology is coming at us so fast that it might push us toward headless ERP, even though we may not want to embrace it. Like I said, technology is hitting us from all different kinds of directions. Data is coming from many sources and needs to be delivered to many destinations. And like I mentioned, it all needs to happen fast. Think about the Internet of Things, cloud computing, AI. And AI is coming at us in all kinds of different environments today that we might have to deal with. On top of that, we have all that different access to data and moving of data around. We need to worry about cybersecurity and making sure that we stay safe. So when we think about headless ERP, why should we go that way? Well, these are the 5 main reasons that we'll talk about today in this presentation. 1, we'll talk about the flexibility and adaptability that it might provide us. Again, we're worried about the really kind of inability to change that core ERP functionality, but how can we take advantage of that and still move quickly? How do we present the best version of ourselves to our customers, or for that matter, to our users? We talked about security just for a second, in the previous slide. We do need to worry about security when we're dealing with this fast pace of change. And finally, cost control. We all know that it's not easy to change some of these monolithic ERP systems, and we need to be able to make sure that we can do that quickly and for a appropriate cost to making those changes. And we'll talk about the impact of Headless ERP on that. First, let's talk about flexibility and adaptability. But actually, we need to understand what's really changing. Really, most of the ERP core functionality is not changing these days, at least not the basic piece of it. There's solid MRP, there's solid financials, there's solid order processing, costing is there. It's really all about how we receive and use that data and the experience that we can provide to our customers. There are new expectations and changing expectations. Think about how fast consumers want things to be delivered to them these days. It's all of those kinds of things that are coming at us that we need to deal with and be able to face those challenges with the systems that we have in place at the best cost that we can make those changes. So let's talk about that flexibility again. The world is a smaller place. Things are coming at us fast and furious. I keep using the word technology, but it's really what it is. Technology is hitting us from all different directions, sometimes good, sometimes bad. That's why we have to make sure we have good security policies in place to make sure we take care of those bad things. But on the good side, we can have more supply chain collaboration, more cross-department collaboration. We can connect to multiple data sources and give our users more information when they need to make effective decisions. Linking our SOPs with our quality systems. And as a simple example, tablets on the floor, keeping information right at people's fingertips helps make a much more effective environment. So that's the flexibility that we're trying to go for with Headless ERP. Building that layer around our ERP systems that allows us to bring some solutions to come to either customers or users in a much more effective way. And that brings us to building the best version of ourselves. The way we connect is changing, really all the time. How data is exchanged is changing all the time. We need to make sure that we can deal with the competitive landscape, and that competitive landscape is intense. Our consumers are changing, and their ability to use technology is changing. We need to make sure that we can adapt to that. And like I mentioned before, supply chain, connectivity to the supply chain is important, so we can make effective decisions on how quickly we can provide product to our consumers and our customers. And being able to do those things and providing that different interface to our customers is very difficult, again, to do with the standard legacy ERP systems that are out there. But if we think about that layer that we might be able to build around those systems, then that might become much more we might be able to accomplish that much more easily. And then back to the user experience as well. Also important for us to be able to be effective. Back in the day, there were clipboards that were being used. We don't see those much anymore, but we still see handheld scanners quite a bit in manufacturing, especially, and they're prevalent. But more demands on connectivity than that are coming. Certainly, RFID is out there, and automation reporting has sped up the data that's coming to our ERP systems. Users will need to have information from disparate systems to really make effective decisions. We need to be able to provide that to them as quickly as possible. Activity at manufacturing stations are also providing more demands on our ERP systems. And how about complete views of what's happening on a manufacturing floor in one interface? All that can be accomplished without really replacing the core functionality of the ERP, because in all these cases, whether we're processing transactions through a handheld, processing transactions through RFID, getting data to one interface from disparate systems, or even looking at what's going on the manufacturing floor, all that data resides within the database of our ERP systems. And again, it's a matter of being smart about how we go get that data or push that data into the ERP system in the proper way. Now let's talk about security for a moment. Just a couple of examples of where that didn't go very well for a couple of people. And in Austria, an aerospace component manufacturer lost $61 million, and that particular case was an impersonation of a CEO that requested to transfer money for an acquisition. The Norsk Hydro issue that cost them $75 million was a ransomware attack, and although we don't know the amount of money lost by Renault Nissan, they also had a ransomware attack that stopped production in 5 plants in 5 different countries. So I'm sure that number is very large. So a security breach is really expensive. Protecting that the core data, our real asset of our ERP data, is key in that process. We really want to make sure that stays safe. If we think about Headless ERP, where that core data is sitting there as a repository, and there's functionality that's built within that core that we can take advantage of, but that we have a layer of protection where we have functionality that's using APIs or interfaces to get to that data. The outside access to that has a built-in layer of protection. All of the data is better protected because some of that control is within the APIs. There's no direct access to the ERP database. And like I mentioned, it's easier to build that layer of protection for your most important asset. That's all the information that you have within your ERP system. So some of this is just a bit of a change of mindset as we go through thinking about our legacy systems and how we interface to them differently than we did before. And let's just talk about cost control for a moment. Implementation of new ERP systems is really disruptive, yet change is constant and accelerating. So how can we deal with all that change and the acceleration of change at the same time trying to deal with something that's hard to change at the core of our business, which is those larger ERP systems. We certainly can't implement new ERP to solve that fast pace of change, but you can set yourself up for plug and play capabilities through the Headless ERP concept that allows you to move quickly based on demands in your business. And that's the concept that we're trying to go for, is that plug and play concept, to be able to move quickly, be able to make small changes without really impacting that core functionality that we've already built over years, sometimes decades, with customizations that really match our business. Can we just leave that in place, allow us to take advantage of that, and then use that data in a different way? That's what we're going for with Headless ERP. Now, there are systems out there today that are built with that concept in mind right away. So they're built with the concept that their functionality is in place, and APIs are built around that functionality, but that's not the case with legacy ERP systems. So can we really use it in our environment? So just as a quick test, what we really need to understand is the business functionality that we have within our ERP system solid. If it is, then that's the most important question to be answered, and that's the biggest hurdle. You've invested a lot of money in these applications, and we want to be able to take advantage of that spend as much as we can. Second question I want to ask is how many APIs are available with the standard product? Now, depending on which product you have as a legacy system, those APIs may not be completely apparent. But I can tell you that I've worked with many legacy ERP systems over the decades, and once you know how they're put together, they may not have called them APIs, but a lot of those interface points are available to you and to be able to be used for this concept. For example, there are different modules in many of these systems, and those modules have to talk to each other. Those modules use embedded APIs that are within the product that can be adapted to your use. Transactions get processed in many different ways within these systems, and there's almost always transaction processing APIs or API-like activity that you can, like tools that you can take advantage of within these ERP systems. So it's really a matter of documenting those things, understanding your system, doing a technical review of that system in a way that you are looking for those APIs that might be able to be reused over and over again. And in most cases, there are many of those within the system, especially around the core functionality that we really need them to be in, because that's where most things from different modules need to talk to as well. Also, think about taking advantage of the platform capabilities of the systems that you run on. Most of the work that we do here at PSGi is on the IBM Power I systems, and really that stability cannot be beat. And built within that platform are all kinds of different ways that you can take advantage of interface capabilities that bring you a little bit of ease to get to the database and to the data within the ERP system. So think about what you can do to take advantage of your platform capabilities as well. So it is possible to take advantage of the headless ERP concept with our legacy systems if we change our mindset a little bit. And that's really the summary for this presentation. Think about your ERP system being a repository of functionality and how you can get to that repository of functionality. Create a strategy of layers around that ERP system with anything you might want to do. Build a library of reusable API interface points. And believe me, there's more of those than you might think. And this can be mostly just documenting what's there already and taking advantage of those things. Change in mindset is really the most important thing on dealing with that outside pressure and how you might be able to take advantage of those APIs that are there. So that mindset change is the biggest part, where we need to think about not just changing that, going in and changing the ERP system itself, but how do we take advantage of things that are already there and make it easier for us to take advantage of that functionality. I want to thank you today for listening to us, and I hope it allowed you to at least get some thoughts going on how you might be able to deal with things a little bit differently from a legacy application perspective and be able to react to that change of pace. And of course, here at PSGi, we'd be willing to help you with anything you might need, and you can reach out to us at any time. Thanks for your time today.